Hi, good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. We're doing Bay of Pigs. You have 10 questions to answer. Very short read. You probably can't hear me because even though I've asked them a number of times, no one is going to be quiet. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're fixing to get hit by that train. All right. All right, here we go. I'm not going to say this twice. I'm not going to go over it 15 times. I'm not going to roll it back and forth so you can answer your questions. Unless, of course, you actually start paying attention. But if you sit here and talk the whole time I am teaching, do not, when I am finished, go, can you go back to the beginning so I can see what the answer was to number one? No. No, I can't. You can go online tonight and find it and look up your answers, or you can use your time wisely now. Oh, I know, that's a shocker. All right, here we go. This is during the Cold War, obviously. The Bay of Pigs, everybody always goes, what was happening at the Bay of Pigs? Why do they call it the Bay of Pigs? That was just the name of a place. Okay, it's actually a bay. And for whatever reason, it was known as the Bay of Pigs. Okay, I didn't name it. I don't know why it was named. No, there was not wild pigs running all over the place. It was just known as the Bay of Pigs. You know, different things are called different things. I'm sure if you lived in Cuba, you would understand probably why it was named that. You know, but I truthfully, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know why it was named that. I don't think I've ever known why it was named that. If you want to, you know, if you want to score brownie points with somebody, go home and look it up. My guess is you can look it up and it'll tell you why it was named that. I just have never been so curious that I wasted my time looking it up. Sorry. In 1961, the United States are training Cuban exiles to Cuba to try and overthrow Fidel Castro's government. Okay? And of course, this little plan fails miserably. I mean, this is a horrible operation. It fails on every level. The invasion is considered part of the Cold War because the United States was trying to prevent communism from taking a hold on any of the Americans' interests. Okay, understand, Cuba is a very small island, but it only sets 90 miles from the tip of Florida. Okay? So you really didn't want communism right there. You know, basically they're in your backyard. Okay? So the United States did not want that. So when Castro overthrows the government, the Cuban government, and becomes a dictator and turns the island into a communist island, of course, he now makes an ally of Russia, who is the United States' mortal enemy during the Cold War. Okay? So now Russia kind of has a toehold right in their backyard, and the United States doesn't like that, obviously. Okay?
Are we like okay with Russia now, or do we still?
No, we still don't like Russia, and Russia don't like us.
We love Russia.
Although I personally have nothing against the Russian people.
Did Russia like?
Yeah, they did.
What did the Russians do to make us hate?
The Russians ate all the
They
vaccines.
just don't like each other. They're just two world powers, and they don't like each other because they don't trust each other. In all reality, that's what it amounts to. Before the invasion, Fidel Castro helps to lead the Cuban Revolution that is overthrowing the existing government of Cuba. Okay? And that's in 1959 that he helps to overthrow the government of Cuba. And he sets himself up as the dictator at that point in time.
That's about
Okay.
right.
Of course, he was a very strong communist. He was an ally with the Soviet Union. And this deeply concerns the United States, as this gives communists in the Soviet Union a foothold, again, right in our backyard. I mean, 90 miles off the coast. Florida.
That's not very far.
That's not very far, okay, that's not far at all. Okay, that's from here to, Charlotte. If you think, put 90 miles, I think Greensboro to Charlotte is roughly 90 miles.
That's not far.
So, okay,
Not for a communist country to be right there.
okay.
Not for me.
90 miles is not far at all. To be someone who travels, okay? All right, the CIA, or the Central Intelligence Agent, that's the same thing, that's what CIA stands for, was tasked with overthrowing Castro's government. So he sets up his puppet regime, and now we're deciding, oh, we don't like that, so we're going to go in, the CIA is going to go in and try to overthrow his government. And there was many people from Cuba that was called exiles, that when the revolution was taking place, they left Cuba. Others left after the revolution by makeshift rafts and things like that. So you've got a lot of Cubans in the United States that is against Castro. Okay, they don't like what he's doing. So the CIA is trying to get those people to assist in going into Cuba and overthrowing his government. Okay? The CIA began to train these exiles in guerrilla warfare. And the idea was that they would sneak back into Cuba, begin a guerrilla war against Castro, and they would gain others and eventually overthrow Castro. So the hope is you're sending in about 1,500 basically freedom fighters under disguise of just being Cuban. They would start to do things to try to overthrow the government, and when people saw what they were doing, other Cuban nationalists would join in, and that their numbers would grow. Okay? That was the idea. Looked good on paper. The plan changed, however, and the new plan was to help the exiles invade the island, not just go in and start working to overthrow it. Now it's just going to be an all-out, basically, attack. And the hope was that locals would join forces with them, and they would quickly be able to go in and take over the island. That's pretty ambitious to think that all these civilians are going to join in on the fighting and try to overthrow the government. Okay, that was pretty ambitious. Probably the other plan might have worked a little bit better.
Oh, yeah.
If they had been able to see things starting to take place, maybe then they could have got behind it. But just to go in an all-out attack,
And people just grab
yeah,
their
these
guns.
people,
and
yeah,
then-
people are not just going to grab their guns, go running out and join the freedom fighters and try to overthrow the government. Okay.
They probably have families there. and blah, blah,
That's it. Well, and that's it. They had family and stuff like that, and they're not going to risk, dying or being thrown in jail. Because if it fails, they know they're either going to be killed or they're going to be thrown in jail, one or the other. This is not going to end well if it fails, and the chances of it failing were pretty good. Okay? So, planning the invasion, when they first planned this thing, the invasion was originally planned to occur in the city of Trinidad, but President Kennedy kind of goes against the CIA and the military personnel that is coming up with the plans, and he thought that they needed a more secluded place to drop these guys off, okay? So the Bay of Pigs was chosen instead, and we're going to talk about in a minute why that was not a great idea. Okay, they had once they got surrounded, they had nowhere to go. They're surrounded by swampland and all kinds of stuff, so they can't run. Where had the city of Trinidad, they'd have been able to get into the hills and possibly live to fight another day. Okay, so this doesn't work out too well. The idea was that the planes would fly in first and destroy the Air Force. Then the invasion force of 1,500 soldiers would land. And this is Cuban exile. This is not American troops, okay? And they hoped that the Cuban people would join them in rebelling against Castro. Now, the deal was, Kennedy had promised at one point that he would send American troops in to help. Well, then he backed off of that, but the CIA felt confident that he would change his mind once again, once he saw the fighting starting, that he would indeed send in American troops to help. He does not.
Why not?
So we basically leave these 1,500 exiles, Cuban freedom fighters, we hang them out to dry, pretty basically what our government does. Okay? I mean, it sounds cold, but that's basically what happened. The CIA tried to plan the invasion in secret. However, too many people knew, and word gets out. Think about it. You've got probably some of the families of the exiled people that are going to go back and try to fight. They still have relatives there. They were probably letting them know, hey, help's on the way. This is what we're going to do. And of course, again, you got some that maybe are not anti-Castro. You got some that thinks, hey, maybe if I tell what's going on, it'll be good for my family instead of my family being thrown into prison or whatever. So anyway, the Cuban government knows about this. They know about the invasion that is on the way. Hard to invade a country if they're waiting for you to get there. Okay? So Cuba knew the invasion was coming. The invasion occurs on April 17th, 1961, and it does not go well. Okay? Although the Cuban Air Force was damaged by early airstrikes, there were still some planes left to attack the invaders. Once the invasion started, it took too long for the troops and the ammunition to get off the ship. Before the ammunition could be unloaded, Cuban plane sinks the boat. So there goes the ammo. Okay? So right away, you're in trouble. Many of the paratroopers, and this is what happens when you train people quickly to invade an island. It doesn't work out too well. Many of the paratroopers who were supposed to slow down Castro's forces on the ground landed in the wrong place. They landed in the swamps and could not get to where they were supposed to be. It was just a fiasco. Soon the invaders were surrounded by much larger forces. They were running out of ammunition. They tried to retreat. They had nowhere to really go. Eventually they were this says they were all captured. The truth is, of course, a number of them was killed. A number of them was captured. And if they were captured, they were locked away as political prisoners in the prisons in Cuba and was kept there until they died. Okay? Because you were not going to turn loose somebody who just tried to overthrow your government. You're not going to turn them loose so they can try to do it again. Okay, especially if you're a dictator. Okay? There was no trial or anything. They were found guilty via the fact that they were caught trying to overthrow the government. So that was it. They went to jail. Okay. The results, of course, was disastrous for the United States. It made our government look very weak. It made the CIA look like they were inept, that they couldn't put the plan together. Or, they couldn't rub two nickels together and come up with anything, it seemed like. It also seemed to strengthen Castro's government within Cuba. I mean, he holds off an invasion, so the people are going, uh-oh, and it made him look pretty good to the Soviet Union. They now are thinking, hey, this guy could be a good ally. He turned back an invasion by the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, so it makes him look, like he's a pretty good guy to have on your team now.
Yeah, that's probably pretty true.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, some of the interesting facts. The Cuban exiles were trained by the CIA in the country of Guatemala. Okay. They already had the Condorán was already set to become the president of Cuba. I mean, the United States already had picked out the guy they was going to put in charge instead of letting the people actually elect. a
which is,
president. They already had picked out who they wanted. Okay? The invasion force was known as Brigade 2506. The invaders would have had a much better chance to escape into the hills had they used the original landing site of Trinidad, the city. However, they were surrounded by swamps at the Bay of Pigs, and they had nowhere to go. They had nowhere to run to. I don't know why Van is up running all around the room acting all silly, but Alex finds it amusing, as does Carter. Okay?
As she was laughing,
You're sitting there smiling when you're.
that's not any better.
All right. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. She wasn't amused by Van, she was amused by Seth.
I know, it makes it so
That
huge.
makes it all different.
All of us.
Now she's over rolling her eyes at me. All right,
Which is
now,
super.
and all I was doing was picking, I'd get an eye roll. You like that? You know what my father would have done if I'd rolled my eyes at him, or what I would have
You
done
know
at
what
Michael?
Catherine said to
They would have picked their eyes up on the other side of the room. All right, here we go. I say that, but I never say my kids. And I thought that some of the timing of the invasion got messed up due to people getting the time zones confused. I love that.
Wait, what?
Getting the time zones confused.
they live right there at
It's
Cuba.
90 miles off.
If you go to Charlotte, the time zone's still the same.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Not even a 2 hour difference.
Not a big difference there. All right.
You're so
Well,
funny, Corbin.
that took longer than I thought. That's almost 17 minutes of your life that you will never get back. But you did get introduced to your last 9 days of some of your classroom buddies and what they are doing, because they see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Chris was excited.
and it is coming at them hard and heavy. Bye.